looking how to establish that. So I believe, realistically, of course, it doesn't mean that wind energy or other sources should be neglected, but being realistic, we should focus on nuclear energy as well as fossil energy. And in this region, there are enough scientific and financial capability for doing that, and there are enough incentives to have cooperation among regional countries to develop that.
Okay. I'll bring in Fuad again, but I just finished a debate of this in Brussels, and there's 43, if I'm not mistaken, nuclear power plants under construction today. And even after you bring on those 43 nuclear power plants that have been earmarked and ready for construction, some of those, for example, in the UK, it'll only meet, when that cycle is complete, 4% of the global energy needs. So you're nodding, Peter, because I think that number is correct. So there's a rush now and a shift of mentality to go from oil-based or fossil fuels, because of the depletion of the resources that are there, into nuclear energy, but it's still not going to meet the demands of the energy demand that we see coming out of both India, China, even out of the greater Middle East and the growth. What's your solution to that quandary if you're going to put that much money into nuclear development?
Well, it's the biggest waste of money in history, in my opinion, because if you continue the nuclear path of all the nuclear states today all over the world, you will have enough uranium maybe for 40 to 60 years maximum. If we want to double the amount of nuclear power plants now in the world at once, first of all, you will not solve any problem regarding climate change. You will need thousands to build at least. But if you double that, you will have maybe uranium for 20, 30 years. And afterwards, that's it. Finito. So it's a waste of money. If you want to invest your money properly, you don't do it in nuclear. You want to invest money in nuclear, then you have another agenda. You have another agenda. Regarding solar power plants, we are much way beyond pilot plants. Today, a solar power plant that produces 1,000 megawatt of energy, if you put it on the ground and construct it, it will cost you at least half, is not even more, less than half than a nuclear power plant. And we're not talking afterwards of the cost you have with nuclear waste, with probable incidents, and so on. So even economically, with today's technology, you can construct solar power plants and make money like hell out of it, and at much less cost than nuclear power plant. That's why Abu Dhabi and Masdar are investing billions of dollars in that. They want to construct solar power plants in Morocco and sell solar energy to Spain. This is the future, guys. Everything else is economic suicidal. Let's forget nuclear danger or environmental problems. If we think only economical, this is the economical way to go.
The only comment I would add is I think we make mistakes when we start picking winners and losers. We're going to need all of these sources of energy. We're going to need nuclear energy, we're going to need solar energy, we're going to need oil, we're going to need gas, we're going to need coal. We're going to have to find ways to use those energies in as environmentally acceptable as possible. We're going to have to find ways to recover carbon on some of the fossil fuels. But the idea that we can lock in on any one source here, I think, is wrong. The world needs more energy of all of these kinds than we're going to be able to supply, and that's why I say we need a lot of efficiency. But there are no winners. Picking winners and losers here, I think, is the idea that any one of these answers can supply the world's energy, to me, is not right.
Okay. I want to go around the room here. We have a question here, and I will come around to where we have the microphones. Don't worry. I see the hands up. We have 10 more minutes. If we can take it from microphone 6, please. Yeah?
Okay, Afaf Badran from Dar al Hikmah. The question is to Mr. Peter Robertson and Mr. Fuad Hamdan. Have energy-concerned companies and human rights organizations ever initiated studies about how much energy can be saved if we just do not resort to war as a solution to conflicts or as a way of dealing with possible threats that can be resolved diplomatically? And one more short question.
If you can, just hold let's do them one at a time. Yeah, I think it's cleaner for our panelists. I'm not sure if Mr. Robertson feels like he should be the one commenting about
I represent a company, not a government.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The answer to your question is no, we've never done a study on that I'm aware of, but we're a company.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be the right person, but Fuad, if you want to jump in, I think we should put into context the amount of money being put into Iraq now from a military standpoint is quite mind-boggling. I'd like to see it redirected into alternative energy resources myself. But
I mean, they are the only studies that are available that environmental groups have done, like Greenpeace or the ecological footprint, is that in Western Europe, with the current technologies available, if you use them massively, alone in Europe today, in Western Europe, you would save up to 40% of the energy in house insulation, in more efficient cars, in cleaner fuels, and so on. And don't misunderstand me, nobody's saying we don't want oil anymore. Even environmentalists will tell you, no, the issue is not no more oil. The issue is much less oil and stretched over many decades than originally planned. If you continue today here like that in Saudi Arabia, I think in 40, 50, 60 years, that's it with oil. You can stretch it to 200 years and at the same time have an income with other sources of energy, solar power. You have the sun. Europe doesn't have it. You have the desert. You have space. Nobody else has it. From Morocco till Iraq and from Syria till down to Yemen. We are blessed with that area and with that sun, and we're not using it. It's a shame.
Okay, got that point. Second question there. If I can ask you to keep it very brief and direct. Thanks.
Dr. Haris Saladich yesterday expressed his worries about the speed of development, and indeed we can see that development speed is not balanced in all the fields where development is necessary. Can you suggest solutions for development management that can, for example, ensure sustainability of resources and a healthy environment, especially, and the question is to to Dr. Ali Reza, especially that Iran nuclear power is seen as controversial by states which went ahead with the same program? Thank you.
I don't know why it should be controversial because the Iranians' nuclear project and plans is exactly in the framework of IAEA and NPT, which are the only legal and legitimate rules and centers which can make judgment about nuclear activity. And they have given us confirmation that our nuclear activity is fully peaceful. And this is what Mr. Al-Baradei 2-3 days ago has announced it. So why it should be controversial? The only reason for this controversiality is some political ambitions and incentives of some powers in the world. Because I should tell you very frankly that this is not only the question of nuclear issue. I assure you that any of our countries, if want to go to any type of high technology, even in biotechnology, even in cloning, even in IT technology, they will be criticized by those powers because they want monopoly. This is the question of monopolization of high technology. And this is the reason that in Iran, apart from its economic impact and scientific impact, we are stressing on the rights and right of human being to have access to technology.
Do a follow-up question here, and then let Peter jump into that.
Hello, I'm not sure I understood the question, but one thing that struck me was, you know, you said what kinds of things do we need to develop. Frankly, one of the things we need to develop are people. You know, and then in this world, we're graduating fewer and fewer and fewer engineers and scientists. And this morning I was at EFAT College and here in Jeddah and met 14 young women that are becoming engineers. And I would add my voice to some of the others and say we need more engineers, whether men or women. We need more scientists that are looking at all of these issues. At least in my country, in the United States, engineering and science has become less fashionable, and liberal arts and whatever has become more fashionable. There are more engineers going to graduate in South Korea this year than in the United States. All of our countries need to encourage young people to get into science and engineering and to help us solve all these very, very complex problems that, frankly, we don't have solutions for. So there's another aspect of development that I think may be interesting to the questioner.
Well, it also raises another question, and I'd like to pose the follow-up to Dr. Attar, if I can, and I mean this in the spirit of strategic alliances and partnerships. I recently saw reports of journalists that we actually had out to get this covered, where the youth doesn't feel like this deployment of energy or financial resources into the nuclear energy sector is the wisest way for Iran to be going right now. There's a huge unemployment problem within the youth. It's a challenge within the GCC as well. But in a place where you have that unemployment or underemployment with all these educated people, Peter, that are in Iran, is it wise to be deploying the resources into nuclear energy and nuclear power when in fact we should be diversifying that economy, as a thought?
I think some of you have gone through the reports that when the nuclear energy is feasible, now it is believed that if the oil price is more than $50 per barrel, then investment on nuclear energy is quite feasible. And there are many calculations and analysis about that. You can refer to those articles which have been composed about this.
I think if I can interrupt you, I'm asking a different question. That is, in a state of being where you have a very high youth unemployment rate, shouldn't that money be deployed differently in the country?
I don't know who believes that if you make investment in nuclear technology, it means that you are not creating jobs. There are a lot of jobs for specialists, even for technicians regarding this nuclear technology. Thousands of engineers and young engineers in laboratories and in institutions are busy with that. So it is not true that making investment in nuclear technology means that you are ignoring of creation of jobs. This is what we have experienced in Iran. You know, the nuclear technology in Iran is domestically, it is indigenous. We have not get it from any other country. So this type of development of nuclear technology has created a lot of jobs for many young engineers.
Good. Thanks for answering the question. We have some questions here. I'll try to get to all of them. Let's go to 2 and I'll come to 3 after. Number 2, go ahead. Number 2. Okay. Just a second.
الو ثانك يو فيري ماتش. انا اسف جدا اني اتكلم باللغه الانجليزيه، ولكن طالما ان الموجودين على البانل يتكلموا باللغه الانجليزيه واود ان يكون السؤال حقي واضح وصريح. خلال الصيف الماضي اجتمعت ببعض الاصدقاء في على المستوى الاكاديمي في اوروبا، وطلعت بانطباع. I came out last summer. I met with some of friends in Europe and also some from the United States in the academic circle, and our discussion centered toward around the alternative energy, and I came out from this discussion that the alternative is there, and it is just a matter of time, strategically timing by the powers to be, or the powers who have the decision-making ability to unleash that alternative into the market. I would like to ask Mr. Robertson and others, especially, to give an idea whether this view is correct or it is just a perception. Thank you.
Okay. It's almost a belief, a conspiracy that the alternative energy sources are being held back in the marketplace. Is there anything holding back the introduction of some of these technologies onto the market?